After the huge success of the first season, the show Maxton Hall left everyone with more questions than answers. What will happen to Ruby and James after everything that went down? How will their story continue, caught between guilt, love, and family secrets? Today, I'll tell you what happens in seasons 2 and 3 of Maxton Hall, based on the books, where drama, betrayal, and second chances come to a head. Season 2 picks up right where the first book ends. James, spiraling into alcohol and drugs, ends up at a party with Cyril and, at the worst possible moment, kisses Elaine. That same night, Lydia shows up at Ruby's house looking for her brother. Together, they go to Cyril's place and catch sight of the kiss that changes everything. But behind the scandal lies a deeper wound. James is drowning in grief after his mother's death. Ruby is devastated by what she saw. She shuts everyone out, deletes her social media, ignores messages, and spends days trying to make sense of it all. Meanwhile, James spirals into self-destruction, worrying his friends. Mortimer, his father, forbids James and Lydia from talking about their mother's death until the company releases an official statement. No one outside the family understands the real reason behind his breakdown. Lydia, though broken herself, is holding on better than her brother. The only thing she can do is keep calling Ruby, praying she'll pick up and help James somehow. But Ruby never answers. Out of concern, Ember checks her sister's phone, finds Lydia's missed calls, and reaches out to Lynn, Ruby's school friend. Lynn doesn't know what happened between Ruby and James, but she confirms the missing piece. James's mother has died. That revelation snaps Ruby out of it. With Lynn by her side, she goes to the mansion, pushes through the reporters with Percy's help, and finally reaches Lydia. Hugging her, reminding her that she's not alone, especially now with the pregnancy. When Ruby goes upstairs to see James, she finds a completely broken boy. The moment he sees her, James completely falls apart. He regrets hurting her and clings to her, terrified she'll walk away again. Ruby can't forgive him yet. The pain is still too raw, even though it hurts to see him like this. But that moment gives James just enough strength to move forward. He finally tells his friends about his mother's death and quits alcohol and drugs cold turkey. He throws himself into working out, using every routine as a way to breathe again. Meanwhile, Lydia asks Ruby to go with her to a medical checkup, and to everyone's surprise, they find out she's expecting twins. Still shaken by the news, they stop by the cafe where Ruby's mom works. The conversation between them softens things. Lydia opens up about the pressure Mortimer puts on her and James, and how much she misses their mother. Mortimer is barely ever home, and when he is, he only talks about business. For the funeral, he delegates everything to an assistant and demands absolute composure. No tears, no weakness. Even so, James ends up hugging Lydia, silently reminding her that she has every right to cry. Ruby, meanwhile, slowly begins to rebuild her life, though she can't get James out of her mind. She hates him for the kiss, yet still keeps a photo of him smiling with Lydia, taken years ago, as if that image were proof that something in him is still worth saving. Ember talks to her gently about it. Ruby admits she feels guilty for resenting James while he's grieving. Ember reminds her that confusion is also valid, and that she doesn't need to punish herself for how she feels. Christmas Eve arrives, and Ember organizes a girls' night with Lynn and Lydia. Little notes about the year's biggest moments, popcorn everywhere, and a romantic comedy to lighten the mood. Only then, between shy laughter and honest silences, does the wound begin to heal, just enough to keep this story moving forward. That same night, Ruby drives Lydia home. She's carrying James's blue hoodie, but it's not just about returning it. She's trying to close a chapter. She needs to let go of what happened, to end things before the new year begins. James, on the other hand, spends the night alone, working out until he's completely drained so he won't fall back into drinking. When Ruby shows up, he can barely meet her eyes. She makes it clear she can't carry that weight anymore, that she needs to forget. James tries to apologize, But Ruby isn't ready to hear it. She leaves, and he's left drowning in guilt and resignation. Seeing him like that, Lydia tries to lift his spirits. She reminds him not to give up so easily if he truly loves Ruby. But nothing changes until James accidentally discovers his sister's pregnancy. A bottle of prenatal vitamins falls out of Lydia's bag, and with it, the truth. Finding out that Ruby's been by Lydia's side all along shakes him deeply. For the first time in weeks, he feels a spark of hope. Determined to get his life together, James leaves his bad habits behind and stays clean, wanting to be someone his sister can truly count on. But Lydia is hiding her own secret. She still hasn't told Professor Graham about the pregnancy. She's afraid he'll see her differently, that he'll stay with her out of obligation. Ruby and James try to convince her to tell him, reminding her that he deserves to know. But Lydia refuses. Meanwhile, James tries to distract himself by rejoining the school's event committee. He starts showing interest in Ruby's hobbies, even reading Death Note, her favorite manga, as if that small gesture could bring him a little closer to her again. A charity gala is coming up, and this time, James throws himself into organizing it. He reaches out to sponsors, contacts decoration companies, and works hard to earn back his place on the committee. But for Ruby, working alongside him is almost unbearable. She can't look at him without remembering his scent, his kisses, the touch she can still feel on her skin. Days earlier, James had gathered the courage to show up at her house. He confessed how happy she made him, how much he still needs her. But Ruby responded coldly, trying to convince herself that her life shouldn't revolve around him, though she almost instantly regretted how harsh she'd been. That's why, during a later committee meeting, she asked James to come with her to pick up an old photo booth they planned to use for the gala. But in truth, she just wanted to apologize. The trip felt tense but necessary. Being that close again reignited everything they had both tried so hard to bury. When they stepped inside the photo booth to test it, the lights flickered, their faces were just inches apart, and Ruby felt the slight touch of his hand like an electric spark. In that instant, James realized his fight hadn't been in vain. As the days went by and the event drew closer, a last-minute problem turned everything upside down. The decoration company pulled out at the last minute. With no time to lose, the headmaster asked the lacrosse team to step in and help the committee. So, after hours of training, James and his friends spent the night hanging lights, moving tables, and setting up the stage. When everything was finally ready, the group celebrated with a spontaneous dinner. By the end, everyone left, leaving Ruby and James alone for the first time in what felt like forever. They talked, looked at each other, and without needing any words, Ruby forgave him. She admitted she still loved him. They hugged, and for a fleeting moment, all the chaos of the past few months seemed to fade away. That night, Ruby invited Ember to the event on one condition: that she'd stay close and not talk to strangers. But while Ruby was busy checking every last detail, Ember met Ren, one of James's friends. At first, she thought he was only talking to her because of a bet, a cruel joke. But the conversation flowed easily. Ren opened up about his family's financial troubles, how they'd gone bankrupt after some bad investments, and how helpless he felt. Ember, in turn, talked about her fashion blog, her love for design and creativity. They connected more than either expected, and Ren even took an interest in the articles she'd written over the years. Their connection continued the next day, with messages lighting up their phones. But the calm didn't last. During the gala, a heated argument broke out between Ren and James. James pulled him away from Ember, and Ren lashed out, accusing him of changing, of neglecting his friends because of his obsession with Ruby. Then, in a fit of anger, he blurted out a cruel lie. He claimed to have hooked up with Ruby at a party. Blinded by fury, James didn't listen to another word. He walked away before Ruby could explain. She tried to stop him, but it was too late. The past had come crashing back, right when it seemed like everything was finally starting to heal. The following day, Ruby decides to write to James. It's hard, but the need to heal outweighs her pride. To her surprise, he replies right away and asks to see her in person. Her parents hesitate. They know James has hurt her, but in the end, they agree. They don't know all the details, but they can sense that boy caused her more pain than she's ever admitted. When James arrives at Ruby's house, the air is thick with uncomfortable silence, but there's something else too. Calm. Slowly, through honest glances, they both apologize. Neither of them makes excuses. James doesn't ask about what Ren said, and Ruby doesn't bring up what happened with Elaine. They talk, catch up, and before they even realize it, the distance between them starts to fade. Ruby asks James to help her study philosophy, and between books and soft laughter, she notices something new. Despite his resistance, James has a brilliant mind. She's convinced that, sooner or later, he'll eventually fall in love with the academic world he's always rejected. James stays for dinner with the Bells. Nervous, he places the silverware the wrong way around and blushes under their amused gazes. Later, they play a game of Jenga. He doesn't understand the rules at first, but somehow ends up beating Helen, Ruby's mom, the undefeated champion of the house. Between laughter and teasing, James realizes what his own home has always lacked: warmth, affection, a true sense of belonging. Finally, a few days later, he meets up with his friends again. Ren is distant, Alistair is bragging as usual, and the tension hangs heavy in the air. Eventually, Ren confesses the truth. His family is bankrupt, and they'll have to move soon. Despite everything, the group promises to help him however they can. Ruby and James plan a real date. Percy, the Buford family driver, comes to pick her up. During the ride, Ruby notices how tired he looks. Percy admits he's been with the family for over 25 years, and that Cordelia Buford's death affected him far more than he lets on. He asks Ruby to take care of James, hoping that time will heal what that loss left behind. They have dinner at an elegant restaurant. James, calmer now, talks about his new hobbies. He's started reading for pleasure and wants to show Ruby that not everything between them has to be chaos and pain, that he can offer her peace, laughter, and beautiful memories too. Between looks and laughter, the tension melts away. The night ends with gentle touches and kisses, a sincere truce between two hearts still searching for each other. While Percy drives around the block to give them privacy, Ruby and James share one of the most beautiful nights they can remember. The next day, Lydia invites Ruby over to spend the afternoon at the Buford house. But their calm is broken when Mortimer suddenly shows up, deciding to have lunch with his children, unaware of the guest waiting at his table. To everyone's surprise, Mortimer Buford lets Ruby stay for dinner. The meal unfolds under a fragile calm, filled with polite silences and restrained glances. Everything seems fine, until Lydia mentions that she used to do ballet as a child. Mortimer, in his usual stern tone, interrupts to say she quit because she lacked discipline. His words hang heavy over the table. Minutes later, he leaves, and the atmosphere instantly lightens. The young people can finally breathe, laugh, and relax. With the Maxton Hall event getting closer, Lydia and Ruby spend hours searching for dresses online. The theme of the ball is magic, fairies and elves. But Lydia can't find anything she likes. Her pregnancy is starting to show, and she wants a dress that hides her figure while still making her feel beautiful. Ember, ever the creative one, offers to make her a custom dress, on one condition, that she gets to attend the event too. Ruby agrees, though reluctantly. She knows Ember is hiding something but can't get her to admit who she's been talking to since the gala. On the night of the event, everything feels like a dream. Lights, music, fake smiles, and secrets hidden among the guests. The ball is a success, but Lydia falls apart when she sees Professor Graham, the man she loves, walk in with an Oxford professor. Unable to bear it, she rushes out, and Graham follows her. Outside, they're spotted by Cyril, who can't hide his heartbreak. He confesses to Lydia that he's been in love with her all along. but she doesn't feel the same way. When James hears what happened, he goes to find Cyril. He finds him drunk, hurt, and consumed by anger. Instead of arguing, James comforts him and asks him to keep quiet about Lydia's pregnancy and her relationship with Graham. Cyril promises not to do anything that could hurt her. With that promise, James leaves, exhausted but relieved. The next day, Ruby is summoned to the headmaster's office. What happens there changes her life completely. The headmaster shows her the photographs James took during the welcome gala back in the first season. In them, he claims to see evidence of an inappropriate relationship between Ruby and Professor Graham. Without listening to her explanations, he decides to expel her. Graham, in turn, is fired as well. The news shatters Ruby. Her mother, confused and disappointed, refuses to believe her innocence. She looks at her daughter as if she no longer recognizes her. Ruby walks out of the office trembling, her world collapsing around her. In the hallway, she bumps into James. He tries to explain that he took the photos at Cyril's insistence, that it was all a misunderstanding. But Ruby can barely hear him. She's frozen, in shock, unable to process that once again, the truth has been stolen from her. And so, as her reputation crumbles and the distance between them widens once more, the fate of Ruby and James hangs at a point of no return, right where the story promises to grow much darker. Meanwhile, as all of this unfolds, Ember, unaware of the chaos consuming Maxton Hall, meets up with Wren at a small cafe. That spontaneous date only happened because Ember decided to skip class, never imagining that choice would mark the beginning of something deeper. Between laughter, confessions, and comfortable silences, they find in each other a refuge from the storm surrounding Ruby and James. After the events of the second book, Ruby Bell is utterly broken. Expelled from Maxton Hall and judged by everyone around her, she's just searching for answers. The story begins with her wandering aimlessly, trying to find her sister, Ember, the only person who could bring her some peace. But Ember is nowhere to be found. That day, Ruby learns that her sister skipped class, something totally unlike her. What Ruby doesn't know is that Ember is sitting in a cafe with Wren, her new love interest, while fate quietly moves its pieces behind the scenes. Lost and confused, Ruby runs into Wren, who manages to convince her to give James one last chance. He asks her to listen to him, to try to understand what really happened. Meanwhile, at the Buford mansion, everything is falling apart. Lydia faces her father's fury. Mortimer not only refuses to accept her relationship with Graham, but also reacts violently when he discovers her pregnancy. Lydia wakes up bruised, and Mortimer, obsessed with protecting the family's image, orders Percy to take her to live with her Aunt Ophelia, not out of compassion, but to hide the scandal. Moments later, Ruby arrives with Wren. There she finds James, lost and desperate. He barely has time to ask her to trust him before leaving with Lydia. Ruby, still trembling, agrees to go to Alistair's house with Wren. She can't bring herself to go home yet. That night, she tries to forget. She drinks too much and collapses under the weight of her disappointment. When James shows up, he finds her changed, vulnerable. He doesn't judge or pity her. He understands that her dream of studying at Oxford has been shattered. He tells her what happened with Lydia and how Cyril, in an act of betrayal, took his phone and leaked the photos that caused everything. James promises to fix it. He'll talk to Cyril, get the original files, and make sure Ruby gets her place back at Maxton Hall. He admits that he took those photos before he even met her, never imagining the damage they would cause. He only meant to protect his sister. But now Ruby is the one paying the price. Heartbroken, he swears he'll do whatever it takes to make things right. Ruby, exhausted, finally goes home. Her parents, calmer now, actually listen this time. Her mother apologizes for doubting her. For the first time in days, Ruby feels a flicker of relief. The next day, James shows up with Lynn's notes so Ruby won't fall behind in her studies. A quiet understanding begins to grow between them. He helps her review, and she starts studying again, this time at the public library. Meanwhile, James faces his own personal hell. He finds Cyril at a club, drowning in alcohol. He finds him completely wrecked, but appeals to what's left of their lifelong friendship and asks him for the original photos. Ashamed, Cyril agrees. Elsewhere, Ember and Wren's relationship begins to bloom. She helps him paint his room, meets his mother, and listens to his fears about his family's financial ruin. Ember shows him that real affection isn't measured in money, and together, they find a little peace in the middle of the chaos. Meanwhile, Mortimer tries to bribe Graham to leave Lydia, but Graham refuses. James walks in on the whole scene, and in that moment, he finally understands that his father will never change. He decides to resign from the family company, sell his shares, and cut all ties with his father. Furious, Mortimer kicks him out of the family home. Lydia, meanwhile, finds refuge at her Aunt Ophelia's house, a warm, non-judgmental woman who encourages her to rediscover her passion for design. Thanks to James's help, Graham visits her a few days later, and Lydia finally tells him about her pregnancy. They embrace, ready to face whatever comes next together. With nowhere else to go, James turns to Ruby. Her mother doesn't turn him away. She welcomes him with a genuine hug. The Bells take him in as one of their own. For the first time in years, James feels what it's like to be in a real home. No fear, no expectations, no masks. Later, Ruby and James visit Lydia and meet Aunt Ophelia, the Bufords' exiled aunt, vibrant and endlessly creative. Lydia and Graham express their wish to make their relationship public, but James asks them to wait until they have the evidence. That night, Cyril keeps his word and sends the original photos. Soon after, Ruby and James share an intimate moment, brief but meaningful, knowing the world is still against them. The next day, they accompany Lydia and Graham to the club where Mortimer is meeting with the headmaster. With remarkable composure, Lydia shows them the photos and admits she's pregnant. The headmaster congratulates her and promises to reinstate Ruby at Maxton Hall. Ruby's first day back is a celebration. She walks the halls again, greeted by her classmates. She rejoins the student committee, and together they plan a bonfire to close out the term. That evening, James cooks macaroni for her, and they share a sense of peace that once felt impossible. He confides that he doesn't want to study at Oxford. He dreams of traveling and starting a blog. Ruby encourages him, certain that, at last, he's making choices for himself. During the bonfire, the headmaster publicly apologizes to Ruby. She responds calmly, pointing out that the real problem wasn't her behavior. It was about class. If her last name had been worth millions, no one would have doubted her. Meanwhile, James helps organize the event and uses the chance to talk to Wren, who's hosting a get-together at his new place. But just then, James receives an angry, threatening email from his father. He ignores it, not wanting to worry Ruby. At the gathering, everything seems fine, until Ember finds out she wasn't invited and feels betrayed. Wren tries to explain, but his words fall short. Later, Ruby, James, and their friends learn that Cyril is drunk at a rival team's party. They go to find him and bring him home safely. That night, Cyril apologizes to Ruby, and the group forgives him. Slowly but surely, the wounds begin to heal. That same night, Kesh and Alistair have a revelation of their own. Kesh, through tears, comes out as bi, and finally finds the acceptance he'd always feared he wouldn't get. Days later, Wren turns up at Ember's school. He wants to apologize, but she's too hurt to listen. Still, fate brings them together again at Lydia's baby shower. There, Wren gathers his courage and confesses his feelings in front of everyone, just as Ruby walks in. Protective as always, she can't forget the pain Wren once caused her sister. But Ember stands her ground. She's tired of Ruby making decisions for her. Tension fills the room when Mortimer arrives uninvited. His presence changes everything. He takes James aside and threatens him. If he doesn't return to the company, he'll expose secrets about the Bell family that could destroy their reputation. Desperate, James gives in to the blackmail to protect them. Ruby tries to stop him, begging him not to give up on his dreams. But it's no use. He moves back into his father's house. Before he leaves, Helen tells him he'll always be welcome, reminding him that he still has a family waiting for him beyond the Buford name. Days go by. Ruby tries to cheer him up and crosses off one of the wishes from the list they wrote back in Oxford, to share a kiss in the library. That simple yet meaningful gesture reminds them both that love can survive even under the weight of secrets. Soon after, Percy asks to meet with James. He reveals that Cordelia, James's mother, gave him a key before she died. He also confesses that on the night of her death, Mortimer secretly met with the family's lawyer. Intrigued, James and Ruby follow the trail, searching for what the key opens. And they find a jewelry box hidden in the dressing room. Inside lies Cordelia's original will. The document changes everything. The company's presidency is meant to go to Ophelia until James and Lydia are ready to take over. The shares belong to them, not Mortimer. Cordelia had planned it all. With everyone's support, they confront the family patriarch. Cornered, Mortimer agrees to step down, with one condition, that the press never finds out. And so, the Bufords begin a new era, finally free from his control. Weeks later, Lydia gives birth to her twins, Rosie and Henry. While James plays a lacrosse match, Ruby keeps him updated through texts. Happiness fills their lives. 3 months later, Ruby is happily studying at Oxford. James visits her, hanging up photos from their travels around her dorm room. Lydia studies business management with Ophelia's guidance, and Cyril, Wren, Ember, and the rest of the group find their own closure, reconciled and at peace. And that's how the story of James and Ruby ends. Two young souls who learned that love isn't about perfection, it's about growth. True bonds aren't built on power or last names, but on the willingness to heal together. Because sometimes, to save someone else, you first have to learn how to save yourself.